Hey everybody, welcome to this Caregiver Coffee. My name is Matt Estrad. I'm a gerontologist in the greater New Orleans area, partnering with the Council on Aging, or COAST, and on these Caregiver Coffees as well as the Caregiver Support Groups for the last 5.5 years. I'll talk a little bit more about the support groups towards the end of this episode, as I usually do. But in this program, I'll be talking about some common caregiving questions. Some of them related to dementia, some of them are not. So I'll get to as many as I can in these 10 minutes. And if you're watching this live right now, I welcome your comments, your questions, if you have any. Also, if you're not comfortable doing that, you don't want to be identified, you can always send me an email to the one right there on the screen, matt@carepartnermentoring.com, and I'll be happy to answer your question anonymously on a future episode. So let's get started. So one of the questions that we have, one of the common questions is what is sundowning or sundowners? And it's the same thing as Alzheimer's and dementia. So it is sundowning is, if you're not familiar with it, so sundowning is this phenomenon or this happening where someone who has Alzheimer's or another type of dementia, because Alzheimer's is a type of dementia, but the sundowning is something that someone with dementia may experience towards the afternoon or evening, where they become more tired, they become more agitated, they might get angry. And we think this is because it's towards the end of the day and they are getting just tired, like they may normally have a long day, especially if they get up early, but they're just kind of they have a shorter fuse, and the slightest thing might aggravate them or agitate them, where they start they might want to leave, or they might be repeating questions, or they might do things like yelling, or complaining, or just trying to they're just generally not cooperative. So one of the things that you can do, and this is something that's recommended for a lot of times when your loved one with Alzheimer's or another type of dementia is being agitated, is to try music. And we're not just saying just turn on any kind of music. While that's okay, the best thing, the optimal music, and what the research stands behind, is utilizing music that person has enjoyed through their life. And this is information you want to gather beforehand, obviously. So let's say you have and I've done previous Caregiver Coffees that covered this topic extensively. I have one that just talked about music, and you can also find out. I'll give you my website after this question, and you can learn more about music. But once you have the music that you feel like the person's going to respond to because it's personal to them, you play the music at least 30 minutes before the time when they usually start experiencing that agitation, experiencing that sundowning. And the research has shown us that the music can have a powerful impact. But again, it's going to be music that's personalized to them. So their favorite songs, their favorite artists, that might remind them, that are going to remind them of pleasant activities or moments of their life, and at least 30 minutes before the onset of that agitation. Now, how do you know when that time is? It just takes observation, and you can do this over a couple of days to 2 weeks. The longer the better. But you'll start, after a couple of days, you'll start to get a sense of, okay, it's around 3:30 when this starts happening, when they start complaining or start getting extra confused. I would write that down in my notebook. So when you'll kind of see like this time. Now, that's the optimal. But what you can do right away is, even when you don't know what that time is, to start playing a half an hour beforehand. Just put it on when you see the agitation and the confusion. Just put it on. It doesn't mean you have to not do it until you have that specific time. No, just start the music now, and that could possibly help get the person out of it, or at least lessen the agitation that they are experiencing. All right, so that was a great question about sundowning and what that is. And just real briefly, this is not like an official question, but and I've covered this on previous support caregiver coffees. the difference between Alzheimer's and dementia. So dementia is a broad term that you can use to include Alzheimer's disease, frontal temporal type dementia, vascular type dementia, Lewy body type dementia. So dementia is a catch-all or an umbrella term for all these different diseases that may cause the dementia. And then many people use the term memory impairment, which would be appropriate also. That describes really just one symptom of dementia, but it would be memory impairment is certainly something that you can talk about. All right, so let's see. We'll talk about falls another week. Should I disclose a diagnosis of Alzheimer's or other type of dementia to my loved one? This is a really good question. It's an ethical question. It's a practical question. And I would say in general, if your loved one was diagnosed with Alzheimer's and other type of dementia, and the physician told you as the family member and not your loved one, you really have to think about. I would say that you want to tell them. That I would err on the side of telling someone. And many people say, well, I don't want to let them know because they're going to get depressed or they're going to get upset. And that certainly is a risk. But I would err on the side, and everybody's got to make their own decision on this and talk about it, and even talk with the doctor about it. But I would always side on the side of being honest in this situation. There is a chance that someone could get upset about it, that they could possibly even get clinically depressed about it. But I believe it's something that most people who have dementia, they know that there is something wrong, and some people feel better about it actually when it's been finally diagnosed, when it has a label. And you're not labeling the person, you're just labeling the condition that they might have, and that sometimes provides some relief for people, including the person living with dementia and their family. A diagnosis and disclosing that may also open up more benefits for that person, get them access to different services with insurance and with day programs and other things like that. So it really could open up more care and more options and more alternatives to help with coping with the disease. One thing to consider is that once there is a diagnosis of dementia, then you have that opportunity to look at power of attorney for them in legal matters, in financial matters, in medical matters. If the person doesn't know what the diagnosis is, then it's going to be difficult to impossible to doing that. So you want to consider those advantages to having that. Let's see what else. So so it's up for discussion between your physician, but I think you err on the side of honesty, and you let them know, yes, this is something that's going on. It's memory impairment. It's non-reversible. So you can start planning and not withholding information from somebody. I say that not as a physician, not as someone living with dementia or caring for someone, but just being with physicians, being with people who are living with dementia, and being with caregivers. That is something that I would consider doing and disclosing that. Let's see. Here's a question. So being afraid of a loved one with dementia leaving the house, and most people call this wandering, like wandering out of a facility, wandering out of a household onto the street. A better term, and I've talked about this in the past, is the word elopement, because elopement explains the behavior as a purposeful one, not just, if you and I would just go wander out on the streets, that would sound like we don't know where we're going, and when we get there, we're not going to know what we need to do anyway. So we're just kind of aimlessly wandering. But elopement is usually the better term, because the person living with dementia, just like when we go somewhere, we usually have a purpose. Therefore, but elopement, it connotates that they shouldn't be going, or they're not permitted. So people ask me, should I put locks on the doors? Should I put alarms on the doors and all that sort of stuff? Some people are concerned about having a double cylinder deadbolt. That's where you have a key on both the outside and the inside. They're concerned because, you know, what if there's a fire? That's not going to be that may not be a viable exit if there's a rush, and that is certainly a precaution and something to think about. But perhaps, well, and hopefully you are not leaving the loved one with dementia alone. I would definitely not do that, because even if there is a means for someone to get out, you know, will they really know how to get out, and how safe is that? So, you know, the double cylinder deadbolts are definitely a consideration to have. I would have the key close so that you or the sitter or anybody that is with them is able to find them and get out of that door quickly. But, you know, that is certainly an option. Another option is just having the single deadbolt, where the keyhole is only on the outside, and the inside is like a turn switch, and then putting some bells on the doorknob, or like jingle bells, or having some kind of beeping alarm that you can get at Home Depot or Lowe's or Ace Hardware, where it's like a burglar alarm, except this beeps from itself. Like, you have it on the door, you have part of it on the door, you have part of it on the door frame, and when a door opens and those things are separated, they sound an alarm, and then that alerts you or the sitter or someone else that the door has been opened and the person might be leaving. And then and while that's good, that's telling you that the door is open, that the person might already be gone, not that they're about to leave. So that's where the jingle bells might help, because if somebody's, you know, fooling with the doorknob, you can hear the bells, and that might get you over there to prevent them from, you know, doing something else. So I hope that was helpful, these 3 different topics that we talked about. I welcome your questions either here in the comments section, or I encourage you to email me at matt@carepartnermentoring.com. I'll be happy to answer your questions on the air. I will not use your name unless you wanted me to use your first name. And I want to close with, as I usually do, with talking about the caregiver support groups. So I've been facilitating these for the Council on Aging in St. Tammany for 5.5 years. And before the pandemic, these were in the activity centers, both in Slidell and Covington. We would do 4 Tuesdays a month, and we have a really great group of current caregivers and former caregivers. So I welcome you if you're taking care of somebody who's up there in age, who is an elder, whether it's your spouse, whether it's a friend, whether it's a parent or other. I welcome you to come meet with us, and we, you know, it's a really good group. Everything that is said is confidential, and we just share ideas, we share frustrations, we brainstorm solutions to challenges that we're having. It's not if anybody complains, it's all in order to get to, hey, how can we help generate some ideas about this challenge that this person is having. So I encourage you to check into that. You can also email me for information about that. I'll send you the information, the phone number, and the website, as we are currently still meeting. We've not stopped meeting ever, even the pandemic. It's just moved to an online platform. So send me an email. Let me know how we can welcome you into our group, and I'll gladly answer those emails. So thank y'all for joining us. Hope y'all are also seeing Christy doing the fitness Facebook Live every day, and any other videos that we have coming out. So thanks for being a part of this audience for the Council on Aging St. Tammany. Thanks for liking the Facebook page for Coast, and for generally supporting the mission of Coast in the community. We cannot do it without you. Thanks a lot, and I'll see you next Monday at 12 noon for Caregiver Coffee. Until then, I'm Matt Estrad, and I will see you then. Bye.